my world, let me just kind of give a quick introduction to who I am. So my name is Jacob White, go by Jake, whatever you want to call me, I don't really care. I've been working with customer success over 20 years now in some capacity. Over the last decade or so, has been in the startup realm. I was over at CrowdStrike when they were an early company. Started back there in 2014, shortly after their Series B. And I went in there to help them build out their customer success and support organizations. Coming from, general management or sales management in different W-2 positions back prior. But yeah, I went over in there and it's getting louder and quieter as I went through. But really just sort of helped them listen to their customers and get that information back. And in this last decade of doing this sort of work has really helped me articulate what the customer is telling, so therefore we can go ahead and put that back into the product as we're attempting to do it. Currently what I'm working on is I work at ClientClimb Advisors. So that's my own firm. I am a fractional executive for startups from ideation through wherever stage you actually need it. And in there mostly within customer success or customer facing responsibilities. Also is in that services we offer, advising and customer research. So here we are within customer discovery, and this is a very near and dear topic of mine. I really enjoy customer discovery. I find it to be one of the most crucial things as you're kind of moving your idea forward. It can actually make or break your product. You hear in my deck, I go through a couple of case studies of companies that have been successful and others that have not. And this is a process that you will need to be doing for really the life of your company. You can look across to history of others who have done it unsuccessfully or just went ahead on their own assumptions. Blockbuster is a big one that I always usually bring up. They had an emerging technology coming out, and they looked at that technology and said, nah, our customers don't think, they're not going to want that. They like the experience of driving in the snow to go and get a VHS they have to rewind. And of course, this was streaming, and of course, Netflix. And now we know a $3 billion company has dried up 9,000, brick and mortar locations out of business in a matter of years since that has actually developed. And that is simply due to them not actually doing proper discovery. Now, this is a product of something that had actually been moving forward and been successful for a number of years. With a new market that they could actually tap into and very easily go and navigate and change. As you move forward, a lot of these are developed, as we're moving into our pitching and we're trying to understand who we're actually selling to, we need to actually make traction. We need to actually get that traction moving forward. That's one of the things that's obviously going to help us move the business forward. The really effective method to do that is to build a persona, build that understanding of who you're actually attempting to sell to and who's really going to benefit from the solution of the tool that you're actually developing, the service that you're actually offering, whatever it might be. Everyone has a persona. I have an example. Prior to working over in the startup world, I worked as a GM for a stone supply house over in Hawaii. And in this place, I started as the general manager, so it was the owner and then me. And we were, I didn't know this in going in there, but they were floundering on the verge of bankruptcy. They had a very difficult time getting their products off the port and imported over in. As we did some analysis and understanding what their customer bases were, they were too broad. They had too many product offerings. They didn't really understand who they were actually selling to. So we did the exercise. We looked at what they were trying to sell. We looked at what they were attempting to accomplish. And of course, that was to make money, get out of debt. And in there, we did that thought experiment. We did that exercise of who do we anticipate to actually be our ideal customer? What do they look like? What is that experience that they're attempting to achieve? And in doing that, we found it would be higher end, looking for that high-end remodel, looking for, within a certain, we had the demographics, we had their salary range, we had all that stuff more or less defined. And that was through our research of our existing customers and, of course, what the customers were actually looking for that we wanted to, attract. And we revamped our entire process. We have revamped our methodology of how we were going to market to these customers, how we were branding ourselves. We revamped the entire showroom so it felt like this beautiful spa experience as you walked in. And then we revamped our product line. So we changed our business approach, our business model, to attract those customers that we actually wanted. We went and used that methodology to get out there and actually drive business in that regard. And of course, it was a slow-moving, process of research and validation and research and tweaking what we're actually doing to get to profit. We ended up, getting a handful of exclusive partnerships within the state of Hawaii, and those then allowed us to sell one $1,000 item instead of $1,001 items, and made our profit margin that much better. When you are building out this persona, this is obviously something very important. A company that had done it extremely well is Airbnb. Now, today, they have other challenges that they're up against, and we talk about, you're going to come across all sorts of different challenges as you're moving forward. But initially, they had a very difficult time gaining traction when they were introducing this concept of you just renting out your house to some strangers. So they built two different profiles, different personas, if you will. They did this through customer interviews, through research, and through just trial of building out what that persona looked like in terms of their demographics, again, their where they lived, their lifestyle, the goals, the problems that they were attempting to solve, and they bottled that up into what looked like their ideal customer, right? And then, in turn, that helped them develop their marketing strategies, their sales strategies, their advertising strategies, all of this, even their revenue strategy, is reflected on that research that you're initially doing within customer discovery. And these personas helped them more or less outline exactly how they were going to go. It helps strengthen their pitch decks, I guess. I don't really know exactly how they would use that when they're pitch deck, but it does help strengthen your pitch deck in showing that you've done good, proper research on who that ideal customer is, who's actually having that problem, and what do they look like, how are they, and that they're going to be interested. It helps understand your total addressable market, your sellable market, all of those numbers that you're going to need to more or less just know and start spouting off when you're talking about funding, or even just for yourself to have that knowledge. Are important for you to just know. So therefore, you can attack that and address that as you're moving forward and getting out there. And of course, that will obviously go into your pitch deck. And as you're moving forward, it tells the investors and whoever else you're attempting to get money from that you do know who you're attempting to sell to, what their problems are, and that you fully understand what that issue is. Other areas where these personas have been, will provide help. It helps provide that cohesive empathy of the customer throughout your entire company, throughout your entire organization. Working over, jumping back to my example of that stone supply house I worked at. Once we did that, we were everybody from management to sales to the warehouse to even the procurement team. They all understood who we were selling to, and it more or less just changed our methodology and our way of thinking of how we were going to approach our customers and how we were approaching business as a whole. It helped our mission move forward and got us all on the same page. We understood what the customer's issues were, and we understood how we were going to address that, right? And that's something that we want to obviously do. I'm going to jump back and forth between examples here. Airbnb obviously did that. Once they understood who their customers actually were and who they were attempting to sell over to, they were able to successfully grow their business, obviously get their themselves into the market in a much higher and faster method, and we're driven with success in that range. I don't want to keep rambling and just keep going on this. Does anyone have any good examples or war stories, I guess, of their startup adventure where they did not or they were successful within customer discovery? Has anyone ever actually done this before? Yeah.
Yeah. So I learned personas from Alan Cooper, who came up with it.
Yeah.
20 years ago.
Oh, nice.
And so I've been doing them for almost 15 years.
Cool.
So I'm working with a startup right now. It's a menu collaboration app, and one of the co-founders also a user researcher, which helps. And the other one is an orthodontist, and so one of the co-founders is actually the user. And then we have an advisory panel of, I would say, 5 to 10 doctors who are there for feedback and advice at any time. And we did 2 rounds of user discovery, like understanding how they work, how they collaborate, and then we do usability testing. And we're currently looking for product market fit, like the user experience is definitely good.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, absolutely works.
Nice. Nice.
I've coached startups as well on customer discovery, and
Yeah.
something that I've found when I'm talking to friends or starting things up, one of the risks can be that if you are the user and you're a co-founder, that you assume all users are the same as your experience, and so you fail to do customer discovery as a result. So you're saying, I have this need, everyone else must have this need for the same reason.
Right.
So that assumption, I think, is a big risk.
Yeah, definitely testing your assumptions is huge, and that's something as founders, entrepreneurs, we have to kind of swallow our pride and say, yeah, no, everyone's going to want this. Everyone wants this, right? But they're solving the problem in some way today. They are. It might be free. They may have another software. They may have something, right? Some process that they figured out. But yeah, don't assume and build off of your assumptions, because you could be wasting valuable time. As we see, it can run out, money eventually, and use your customers' input to drive your decisions. You know, that is going to be massive. And I think it will also, if you get into those arguments or those, disagreements with your co-founders, you now have actual data to back you up. And I use that regularly when I'm talking with my, anyone that I'm advising, the startups that I'm advising. I just, if we just can't agree, we'll fall back to data and just say, all right, well, let's just break it down to the nitty gritty that we possibly can. And let's use that in our decision making as we move forward. That's generally the best way to go, right? What else? Any war stories? Anybody not do customer discovery and just find themselves? Yeah, what do we got?
So this is less on me and a client that I work with. They were adamant against customer discovery.
Why?
Because the founder had a belief that if their design team were good designers, they didn't need to do it. And I laughed.
But yeah.
And then we had to fire the client.
Really?
Saying like, no, we're not going to do this, because this design-led thinking is really the only way that we work.
Yeah.
So we said no. To my understanding, they're still burning 20-ish million a year. And
Wow.
no traction. It's just like a passion project of that CEO. He has deep pockets.
20 million a year is some pretty deep pockets.
Those are not
Wow.
designers. If they think they don't need research, they're not good. I'm a designer, and
Yeah.
200% churn of their design team in 1 year.
200? So they lost the entire team 2 times, at least. Wow, that's crazy.
Their internal one, and then we were in there for sales automation.
Yeah.
And then we were looking at their pipeline and trying to talk to their design team about their psychographics and who they were targeting, like what were their personas. And then,
Yeah.
then we quickly discovered the CEO was a madman.
Sounds like it. Do you think if they actually had personas that they had agreed on, everybody would be on board and run forward?
Because their competitor, the direct
Right.
competitor, went small team, probably less than this entire room. Went from basically 0 revenue to 20 million ARR.
Wow.
Basically, how much they were burning within just a couple of years.
Hmm. Yeah.
We were watching them meteorically rise in that market, and to my understanding, they had a design kind of like Brian Chesky from
Mhm.
RBC,
Yeah.
design-led background.
Yeah.
So
Well then.
go with your personas, please.
Yeah, personas are massive. If you're not unfamiliar, like to create them is not too difficult. It does take effort, right? And it takes some brainstorming and figuring it out. And usually you start, I'm the industry expert, I'm building this tool because I'm so cool and I know all the issues here. You're probably going to mirror that initial persona by yourself unless you actually know. And then you go and you start researching. You're going to do that through interviews, you're going to do that through surveys, you're going to do that through a number of friends and family, your coworker who's also in the same space. You're going to just start asking them. You're not going to necessarily talk about your solution, but you're going to talk about how they are solving the problem. Is this an issue for you? Would you pay anyone money if they came up with a better way to do this thing, right? That's what you're getting that information out of. And that will then, in turn, define who that persona is. Of course, then that turns into all that other stuff we were talking about, how that bleeds into the rest of your company and all your different strategies that you're going to have to continually create, modify, tweak. And if it's a non-stop process for, again, forever. And if you ever find yourself stopping doing this process, then you're probably going to not be around for that much forever. I mean, it's not possible. Technology will catch up, promise you. But yeah, go ahead.
For reference, Spotify has a massive internal program, and I think the last time I talked with someone internally, they had over 40,000 different psychographic profiles for their user base.
Yeah. I mean, that's music too. But everything that you're doing, right? There's going to be different. I mean, I can come up with a dozen different stories right now, but we don't have time. But there are countless personas, countless customers, and as you're attempting to gain traction, you might have that big old, there's my big piece of the pie, but that might not be the one that you're initially going after. I mean, it might be too big for you. It might be the what was it? What do you call it? Gorilla, right? It might be that Visa that's going to just crush you, and you don't have the staffing or the resources, the capacity to handle that sort of customer. So you need to go to a different one, or you need to go into what may be a lower hanging fruit for you to address those initial, customers to gain that traction. So then you get your funding, then you can develop the team that you can go after the Visa, right? So there's a strategy and technique and methodology to it all that you just need to continually just be looking at. And I like research. I'm not a researcher. My partner is a researcher, so she does all of that for me. But I really enjoy numbers and data. That's how you get successful, is deriving off of facts and verifying your opinions and assumptions. But anyway, I'm going to let you all go. Anybody have any questions, comments, thoughts? Yes.
More of a comment.
Yeah.
It's kind of careful when you're kind of walking your friends and family through
Yeah.
an idea where you're just kind of testing things.
Yeah.
They sometimes might want to not necessarily hurt your feelings. And so,
Exactly. Yes.
Sharing that this is just a guess
Mhm.
is sometimes a little bit better than saying, I have an idea, because they might not want to shoot down that idea
Right.
and crush your
Yeah. I mean, most of the time, friends and family want to, keep you happy. We all want to just help each other. Yeah. That's a good advice. Yes.
Yeah, what percentage of your total research effort
Mhm.
is just predicated off of either faulty assumptions that you've made, or you're just getting bad data back?
It helps to have somebody know how to build research for that, to prevent that second, bad data. If you understand how to address that, it limits that. So I don't have too much problems with bad data in my personal experience, but it can, right? If you're not asking the right questions, many times, many of the clients that I end up working with, they've attempted it, and you look at it like, oh, that's not really driving. I know what you're attempting to get at here, but it's not really, you're not getting the answer with that question. So, and you don't, I mean, there's tools now. I will happily help you through that, but there's tools that ChatGPT can help you drive that stuff. To put myself out of that service offering, but whatever. The more accurate and precise data you can get, and you action on that data, you will move the needle forward. You just will. And it might be slow, but and sometimes taking those risks and those big jumps do pay off. I built the tool, I'm gonna throw it in the app store, like, all right, great, let's go and do it a different way. But yeah, I couldn't give you a specific number, but driving good data with good data is the way to go, for sure.
And also, I coach people how to approach research so you get good data out of it.
Yeah.
We can start to chat more.
All right. Well, thank you again. It's been fun. Connect with me. Let's do this.
Thank you so much, Jacob. This is the concept here, part of the concept of Venture Weekend, and again, we look for all your feedback, is we're just showing a little ankle here on some of our mentors. We will be posting up workshops, 10 workshops every quarter, rotating through on all the key areas that we take our incubator companies through. So customer discovery is one of those, and if you want to take a 3-hour class with Jacob, or to learn how to perfect your pitch with Dana Robinson, who's going to be the next speaker here, this is just a little infomercial for what they do, right? And then the whole mentor ecosystem, if you're not familiar with it, is there's a lot of folks out there that are fractional somethings or consultants. And of course, there are also people who just are retired, but they want to stay active as investors, advisory board members, whatever. So there's all kinds of people in the mentor program. We have hundreds in our mentor program. But a lot of them are the most active ones that they're actually looking for clients, and so they go to Techstars and they give pro bono time to startups, and every once in a while one says, I like you, okay, let's work together. Maybe they join your company or they invest in your company or what have you. So it's through that barter of knowledge that they end up making a living, and by the same token, you're launching your startup with their advice early on. Most of the mentors you have are not, you're not going to be paying, but eventually some of them may end up helping you in a more material way. So just keep that in mind when you're meeting mentors. But it's my great pleasure to introduce Dana. Oh, actually,